Hello and welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Michael Verrill. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development with the Sharp Financial Group. We're an integrated financial management firm working with business owners to create value and grow wealth. Our unique interconnected approach combines business advisory, accounting and tax, wealth management, and capital solutions designed to help entrepreneurs achieve business and personal success. Thank you for joining us for a continuing discussion on growth stories, where we hear from entrepreneurs and advisors who share secrets and advice on what business owners need to know to grow. From time to time, financial matters involving healthcare, technology, or life science companies may be discussed on this program. Please do not take that information as financial advice. Moreover, since the show is pre-recorded and shown at a later date, much of the information discussed may no longer be current. You should always check with your financial advisor before seeking financial or entering into any financial transactions. I'm joined by my guest today, Rob Gilfillan. Rob is the president of Cenero. Cenero is a service-focused, audio-visual, unified communications and IT solutions provider. In 2000, along with a partner, Rob picked up the pieces of a failed .com and over 17 years built a customer-focused, process-driven company to over $35 million in annual sales and 4 office locations while serving customers globally. With an early exposure at a young age to entrepreneurism, basically the highs and lows of running a business, Rob took that with his drive to always be his own boss and match that with a constant ability to readjust his leadership style to achieve the success he has today. An entrepreneur always willing to bet on himself, but strong enough to allow others to lead, it is my pleasure to welcome Rob Gilfillan to Growth Stories.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Rob. How are you today?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
Great. I'm really looking forward to getting into hearing your story and also sharing some entrepreneurial advice. Before you do that, I was hoping you could help answer a question from one of our viewers.
Sure.
This one comes from Kelly Martin from Marion. Kelly would like to know, is teleconferencing still a growth industry to invest in?
So it's been growing for years, and the one thing that's happening right now is there's a lot of consolidation, and there are different companies with different options now. So if you went back probably 10 or 15 years ago, there were a series of hardware vendors that really were where the opportunity was. Today, there are a slew of different solutions. So a lot of the larger companies that have been out there, such as Polycom and Cisco and others, have either gotten acquired or acquired other companies, and there are a variety of different solutions out there, not just hardware, but services and then hybrid options. So there's a lot of opportunity. You just have to pick and choose where you put your money.
Right, like most investments,
right? Like most investments,
yeah,
that's right.
So, well, thank you, Kelly. Hopefully that gives you the information you're looking for. It's always great to hear from our viewers. To submit for a future show, here's how to send your questions to Money Matters.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back. Rob, we typically share stories of growth and success, but some of the lessons you learned early on were from the lows of running a business. Can you share with us your exposure to entrepreneurism at a very early age and kind of how that developed your base?
Sure. So I learned pretty early on in life that sales and being an entrepreneur is very can be very manic depressive at times. So the highs are high and the lows are low. My father had a series of different companies when I was a young kid, but one that he had for about 17 years was a manufacturer rep firm, and I definitely learned you need a good foundation of a business to grow something of any substance for years. He told me years into it, when he had lines that came and went away from that he was being a rep for. That being a rep firm or being an owner of a rep firm was like building a business on a foundation of sand. It was very difficult at times. So he built it up at one point where I had about 35 employees or so. And I saw the business in the mid-'80s go from being very successful within about a year and a half to really going away. There were some economic reasons there, but there were a series of other reasons. And I learned more of what really not to do from a business plan perspective, as well as an owner as well. Took a lot of those things internally to kind of form around our business.
Right, it's great. So that's those lessons learned. Fortunately or unfortunately, there were some of your father's mistakes, but you were able to really build a good foundation to kind of build on that for what you did today. So I wanted to kind of get into the beginning of early on. You told me that when we talked earlier about the reasons why you want to become an entrepreneur. And you often hear people want to become an entrepreneur to have more control over their life and their schedule. Share some of the insight that you just shared with me around that philosophy.
So I've talked to a lot of people that either want to start a business or start a business, and one of the primary reasons they want to have more control and they want to have more time. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because you're going to spend a lot of time in the beginning trying to get this company going. And the time that you have is really your client's time, especially in the beginning when you're running on a shoestring budget. The other thing is the things that motivate you to start a business and motivate you to migrate that company change over time. So a lot of the reasons why you're going to get into business, either for yourself or to start a company, they inevitably will change over time. Mm-hmm. That's just a reality for almost every business owner I've ever known.
Right, and as we mentioned in the introduction, part of your success is being able to change and match that change as you continue to grow for the business. So that's a commendable characteristic for you. Just looking at any other, so before we get into kind of talking about the business, any other experiences you had, or even going back to your education, early jobs, like what else helped you form the foundation for what then became your opportunity to start Cenero? Yeah,
part of having that kind of tumultuous, my tumultuous teens, I call them, and having my father of a business that essentially went bankrupt. We went from a high to a low very quickly, and all throughout my teens, I never really worked for anyone. I mowed lawns at a landscape company, was waiting tables, started bartending in my 20s, and that was a great way for me to get through college. So I never really worked for anyone per se, and I always made money based on my own ability. Whatever I was able to produce and my outcome or my input. So I pretty much was on full commission my whole life, and owning a business, you're on full commission. Sure. I mean, it's like everything else in life. You're going to get out what you put into it, right? That's what I try to teach my kids.
No safety net.
There is zero safety net, and I learned a lot from it, especially being a kid and going through all that stuff in my teens. I learned I could land on my feet. You grow through adversity. That's just a fact of life. So while those times were tough in my teens, they really helped me out when I got in my 20s and early 30s, and especially when I started this business, because whenever things seemed really bad, they really weren't that bad. It's all perspective.
Right. I've seen some studies where they talked about everybody wants to know what are the characteristics of successful entrepreneurs, and resilience has time and again come out as one of those characteristics. And so it sounds like you've developed that resiliency over your early career to help you be successful.
Yeah, you also have to get used to failing. I mean, I think that's one thing is, people said, over years, it's great you've been so successful with this business, and for every one or two things we've been successful at, we failed at 10 or 12 or 20. So, and you put time into it, you give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, you learn from it and try to make the next piece better. So
that's a great lesson for the entrepreneurs in our audience looking, because I think everybody talks about the success stories, right? And they're the ones that are fun to talk about, everyone wants to hear, but there's certainly many more stories of failure. And successful entrepreneurs who have had some of those failures. It's not just you fail and you stay there, you fail and you get back up and do what you did. So
yeah, I actually think we're lucky, because I think the amount of times we failed was minuscule compared to others. I forget the founder of Starbucks Coffee, I think he pitched 220 companies before he got any financing. I mean, that's that's crazy.
Right.
You know, being able to brush yourself off and keep going.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So you started the business in 2000. You're pulling, it's a technology business, right? And you're pulling together the failed pieces of a .com,
That's
but
right.
still 2000. So take us through that. Like, how did you get introduced to the .com? What was your involvement? And then the courage to start a business in, you know, one of the last two, not the worst downturn we've had in the last 20 years, but near to it.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. So, especially around here. So the 202 corridor around the Philadelphia area was a technology corridor, and you know, Safeguard Scientifics was a big player then, and a bunch of other venture firms. And the late 90s were, you know, put a business plan together, present it on a napkin, and you're going to get $1 million of funding and IPO in 3 months. I mean, it was nuts. I mean, there were literally companies out there that were trying to burn through as much money as they could because they had to show that they had need for the money. I mean, I don't think I'll ever see that time again. You know? So we ended up. I got hired by my business partner to help build a plan with him, and we spent 6 months going through developing a plan. Went out, got some funding. Basically got funding promised to it, went out and started spending the money, hiring temps and doing the work, and we had that correction in the spring of 2000. You know, placed some calls, a check never showed up. Angel investor said we're pulling out, and long story short, myself and my business partner ended up pulling our assets and buying the company. And it was really focused on an ASP or an online software really targeted towards the professional audio-video industry.
Okay.
So those tools we developed helped make us much more efficient when we became our target client. Right. So that allowed us to kind of make the transition in 2000 to start growing an audiovisual design, build, and service company. And we've grown right around 35% year over year since then.
So interesting. So Cenero would have potentially been a customer of the ASP that you were building.
That's right. So we learned a lot.
So what was your vision there? Did you talk about that? How you made that transition to say, hey, this is where I think that there's an opportunity?
Well, what's nice about the audiovisual and conferencing industry is it's kind of a sleeper. So it's a highly fragmented market. There are not a lot of major players, and there's a significant room for improvement. There's not a lot of there are people that love technology that start companies because they love. I mean, it's fun stuff. I get to play with cool gear, right? But they start it based on their passion for the industry, and they really don't have the business acumen. They're not process driven. They really don't understand the business side of things. So, and the average size company was about $1.5 million to $2 million. There were a lot of small guys out there, and we felt there was a significant need, especially in the enterprise space, for a company that was focused on better deliverables, better service, things that really targeted online tools that were specific to companies and higher ed that were going to help them run their AV video conferencing type solutions better within their organization. So there was a huge need there, and you know, we understood the market, we had the tools, so why not give it a swing? Right.
And one of the interesting things you mentioned to me was that you didn't really know your business partner for all that long. You guys had kind of come together, I guess, when he hired you to help build out the ASP function.
Yeah, I was. It was really. I think there's a. You know, you got to be bright, got to work hard, but there's a certain amount of luck as well. I was very lucky to have a business partner that I met that had a completely complementary skill set to what I had. So I was very focused on the sales and marketing aspects of the business. I've always been a rainmaker. I understand how to sell. I understand how to productize solutions and services. And he came from a kind of big corporate. He has a good finance background, very operations and process focused. So we literally didn't even talk about what our responsibilities were going to be in the new company. We just kind of did because we understood that's what we were good at.
Right.
And I always describe, you know, having a business partner, and especially our partnership is a forced marriage without the courting. I mean, I spent more time with my business partner Chris than I did with my wife for the first 2 years.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, you're actually, you know, it's actually a more intimate relationship because there are all these financial implications as well. And so I remember one of the first things we did was we got together with our respective wives to make sure that we all were on the same page.
Right,
you know?
right. Could spend time together.
That's
and-
because we knew that we were going to. I mean, Chris and I worked long hours, you know, for many years.
Yeah, and your wife could know Chris and the partner you're spending all this time with while she's away or not with you while you're building this company.
Yeah, it also helps when you you come home and you know I don't miss these years. The times where you can't make payroll and you tell her you got to put $20,000 in your credit card to make payroll back those years, and she at least knows who your partner is and that he's committed as well.
Yeah, that she's got the confidence that you guys are doing the right thing. That's great. Well, talk about those early years. So how that come together? So you take this technology out. You're going to be more of a service provider and go directly after large enterprise corporate clients. You see an opportunity in this space, but talk about how you got there. Like, did you have one big client that initially brought on board, or did you just start getting success with smaller clients? Give us a little bit of insight there.
So the early years are really, you're going to work with whoever has a need that will pay you to do the work. I mean, it's survival mode. Right. So we spent the first really 2 or 3 years, we understand we had really good people, which helped. Everyone was really committed. And we knew we worked hard and put out a good deliverable, but we were trying to find our niche. So we kind of did house of worship, K through 12 school, higher, we did everything. And then you find what you're really good at. So we found that while we always had this service piece in the back of our head, we knew that's where we wanted to get to. We had to kind of, make sure that we had to pay the bills for several years to get there. Right. So the first 3 years was really trying to figure it out. Then we really got honed in on corporate, multi-office, multinational, higher ed, private schools, biopharma, medical, and law firms. That's really where our sweet spot was. And we ended up kind of dusting off our service products that we built previously and really started ramping those up, I guess, about 2004, 2005 to release service-based, a different service-based product in the mid-late 2000s. Right.
And was there a kind of an 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace that you were trying to unseat, or was it just fragmented enough where it was just whoever could build a brand and a name the fastest?
There isn't any big player, and the big players that were out there have their own challenges. So we really were just trying to change the industry and make it different. So raise the bar in the industry, make sure the deliverables are better for the clients, and ultimately improve their meeting experience. So the one thing that our industry has always done is focus so much on the technology and not so much on the end user experience. So it's all about the conferencing experience. What you do before the meeting, what you're doing in the meeting, and all the things you're doing after meetings, such as the data you collect. And we're a bunch of data junkies. We're really an IT firm that does AV. So by looking at the industry differently and taking it from the perspective of the client, you're going to provide a deliverable that's much different than anything else that was out there. I mean, the gear is always important because that's what makes it work, but ultimately you're trying to improve the overall experience for the client.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, that's, I think, more of a concept nowadays where people and companies look to do that. But you were kind of on the front end of that concept. And I guess give me, was that just intuitive to you? Is that advice you got from somebody that, hey, this is where you really need to focus? Because everybody's focused on the gear, so it's easy to do what everybody else is doing, right? What allowed you to go in a different direction or look at it differently than your competitors?
Well, you go and talk to clients. So I remember talking to a CIO of a large law firm, and he said, we spent a ton of money on this stuff, and we know it's important to our business, but it never works. Right. And I feel like we've over-designed things, and we've made them too complicated. And really, I just want to walk up, hit a button, and make a call.
Right.
Show a presentation. And being focused on that and understanding how the business needs change over the years. Technology evolves, don't get me wrong. The technology is important. Right. And there's some really cool stuff. But you also have to understand that the needs of the clients change, the types of meetings they have change, how they're attending meetings change. They're not all in an office that walk into a room anymore. And again, a lot of the companies that are out there are really focused on projectors and screens and microphones and stuff in the room, and you really have to take a step back and look at a bigger picture. Right. And we really, I think as a company, we've done a very good job of that. identified a need in the industry because others weren't addressing it. And when you talk to the clients, they're telling you what the pain is. Just everyone's still concentrated on the stuff in the room because that's what's fun, that's what's cool.
Listening to your clients seems like such a simple way to learn more about your business, but I think lots of companies struggle. I mean, that's a great advice for entrepreneurs out there if they really want to figure out what the market needs and listen to the customers in the market. That's great. So I commend you for being on the forefront of that.
And you have to do it no matter how big. I think it's actually more important the larger you get, the more employees you have. I mean, keep getting your boots dirty. Go out and meet clients because you'll hear things that you don't hear all the time. You're not going to get that looking at a P&L or a balance sheet or going through production meetings. I mean, you got to talk to clients.
So you still make sure you're doing that today?
As much as I can. I wish I could do it more.
Yeah, and now company's much larger now. Are you spending a lot of time doing that? Do you have, I mean, how do you get that information now? Do you have specific processes in place to listen to the customer? Or is it just kind of ad hoc with?
Well, we're lucky we have a couple things. So we have good people. We have good directors that are out there. We have great folks on the production side as well. And they give us that, they bring that feedback to us. And we have regularly scheduled either quarterly or bi-monthly meetings with major clients to really talk about how's everything going, what changes are happening in your business. It's all about the things that are happening in their world, not necessarily what's happening in our world. And I think too many people go out there and get so focused on themselves without understanding it's about the client, it's about the prospect, it's about understanding their needs, and they might not even know what they want, and it's up to you to kind of pull that out of them.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So start to get some traction, you're growing, you're hiring people. Talk about, we always see businesses kind of go through milestones. You reach that 5 million milestone, that 10 million or 20 million or whatever it is. Talk a little bit about that early. Like, what was the first milestone you and Chris were shooting for? Was it a certain revenue number? Or what were you hoping to achieve initially?
Well, as I mentioned, in the early years, it's about making payroll and having something left over.
Right.
And really, in the early years when we started, a big consideration was there were 5 people. If we pulled the plug when the angel investor pulled out, there were 5 other people that were going to lose their jobs and have to go find work at a time when the economy wasn't so great.
Right.
So that was certainly part of it as well. But you get through that survival mode, and that's great. And then you kind of pick your head up, and I think there are a couple things that happened. So I remember we got together, I think we were between 3.8 million and 5 million in revenues. And we sat down, you really start thinking about what do you want to do with this? And this is one of those big things I think as an entrepreneur you really got to consider, because your business is going to change.
Right.
And you also got to figure out what you want to get out of it. And at that point, you can either be an owner-operator, which is fine, be an owner-operator and keep clipping along, or you can build an asset and a culture and something that's really, quite frankly, going to hopefully raise the bar in the industry. So we decided to really focus on building an asset, doing something different in the industry, which really helped create our mission and vision statement, and ultimately allowed us to build a really good culture around great employees. So that was really about the $3.5 to $5 million. Where we decided, look, it's a long-term gig. We're going to try to grow the business, as opposed to just kind of keeping it 3 to 5 million and taking money out of it if you want to.
A lifestyle business, if you will.
Yeah. So I think part of the reason why we've been able to grow so quickly is we've reinvested everything back in the company, everything back to the employees, everything back to training, and that's really helped us grow at 2 and 3 times the industry average.
It sounds like you and Chris were on the same page from the get-go, so that's an important part too. We've certainly seen enough scenarios where one partner wants the lifestyle business, the other partner wants to build the asset and scale it.
That's right.
Yeah, so that, I guess whatever you said, luck, whatever helps you get to where you need to go. So okay, so you've now made the decision. We're going to scale this. We're going to reinvest in the company. We're not interested in the lifestyle business. We want to grow this thing as big as it can go. Take us through that next phase. So you hit 5 million mark or thereabouts, and now you start thinking about the company differently, or do you just continue doing more of what you're doing? Take us through that thought process a little bit.
Sure. So that $5 to $7 million mark, you go from having people that kind of have multiple hats. Someone's a project manager, tech programmer, someone's an engineer, designer, programmer, to kind of getting vertical job descriptions down. So people have pieces that they own within the business. So you're responsible for project management, you're responsible for programming, you're responsible for design, whatever. And then putting some goals and objectives around that. So what are their success criteria? In parallel, creating processes and procedures around that. And we did that, I think we did it at a good stage for our business. And I can't stress the importance of thinking about process because it's the only way you can scale a business. I used to say I was the king of got a minute meetings. Someone would come to my door, knock on the door, hey, you got a minute, you got a minute? It's primarily because I don't have a process, I don't have a procedure, or it hasn't been defined. I've hired people and they have nothing to reference, so they just come to my door, or Chris's door, someone else's door, you got a minute? And they're just asking questions, which ultimately they probably could get the answer as well, but they're using you to figure it out because you don't have it defined anywhere. I think that was a critical time. I think we did a good job back then. That helped us get into, I'll call late teens, 20 million worth of revenues. The thing that was also interesting is the transition between having people have vertical job descriptions and responsibilities. Those people that got you from A to B aren't necessarily going to be the same people that get you from B to C. So you're going to have some change. I think change management is important. You have to understand how to make sure everyone understands it's a positive thing. We always used to tell people when they come on board, if you don't like change, don't come working here. I mean, it's not going to be.
It's constant, right?
It's constant.
When you're growing a business that quickly, it's constant.
constant.
Did you have outside advisors or anybody help you with that change management, or is that something? You said Chris had some large company experience and kind of brought that process mindset to you. How did you get through that?
So I had a couple different advisor groups that I had helped me out. So one was a CEO think tank that I did for years, and now one of our senior members is on as well. I had several other friends of mine that have owned companies, run companies, sold companies at different areas. So I try to get as much as I can out of their heads. Chris has some mentor relationships as well that he has, and ultimately, we have lunch 3 or 4 days a week, and we talk through these things, and we talk to people within the company that we respect, that are leaders as well, to help us through that.
Well, that's fantastic. Tell us where's Cenero go from here? You've reached that way through the 20 million mark now. What's next? Continue to grow, look for partners. What do you want to do with the company from here?
So one thing that I think getting to where we are now is something that if you asked me 10 years ago, I never would have imagined we'd get to where we are now. We're hoping to double the size of the company in another 3 years. And we think we can do that with we've got such a great great set of team members right now, and we've got a fantastic culture. So one thing that actually helped us really get through those 20s and 30s was establishing a good set of core values around the business, and managing, hiring core value based on those core values, and also holding our clients accountable for core values as well, to core values. So we've had clients that we've let go because they haven't held that up.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic, Rob. I appreciate everything you've shared with us today. Hopefully our viewers enjoyed it too. I'd like to see if, it sounds like there's a lot more of the story to tell, so if we can have you back at another time, that would be great.
That'd be great. Love it.
Yeah, great. Wanted to just mention that the next guest on the show will be Jim DiLorenzo. Jim DiLorenzo has his own public relations firm, so he'll be talking to us. The show can also be seen on YouTube and Stitcher. Thank you very much for joining us for Growth Stories today.